Case 1. Kamya Mobley. 8 hours. That's all the time it took for a mother to lose her newborn daughter, and for a stranger to walk out of a hospital with someone else's child like it was the most natural thing in the world. July 10th, 1998. University Medical Center, Jacksonville, Florida. Shannara Mobley was 16 years old, exhausted, and holding her baby girl for the first time. She named her Kamya. The baby was healthy. The delivery had gone well. For a teenage mother navigating one of the hardest moments of her young life, it felt, for just a few hours, like things might be okay. Then, a woman walked in. She wore a blue floral smock and green scrub pants. She looked like she belonged there, like every other staff member moving through those halls. She told Shannara she needed to take the baby for a routine check. Shannara handed her daughter over without hesitation. Why wouldn't she? This was a hospital. These were professionals. The woman walked out of the room, down the corridor, and out of the building. Kamya was gone. The woman's name was Gloria Williams. She was in her early 30s, had driven down from Walterboro, South Carolina that same morning, and had no prior connection to Shannara or her family. She had recently suffered a miscarriage while in an abusive relationship with a man named Charles Mano. She later testified in court that she had not driven to Jacksonville with a plan to take a baby, but that when the opportunity presented itself, she believed a child would stop the violence in her home. She wrapped Kamya in a pink and blue blanket and drove north. Back in Jacksonville, Shannara's world collapsed. Kamya's father, where Craig Aiken, was incarcerated at the time on drug charges. Shannara was a teenager, alone, and her daughter had vanished from one of the most secure environments imaginable. The hospital launched an internal investigation. Police canvassed the area. The case went cold. In Walterboro, Gloria Williams renamed the baby Alexis Kelly Mano. She forged a birth certificate and obtained a social security number using the stolen identity of a deceased man from Virginia. She enrolled Alexis in school, raised her alongside her 2 other children, and built what looked, from the outside, like an ordinary family. Alexis grew up, made friends, attended Colleton County High School, and graduated. She had no idea. The first crack appeared when Alexis was 16. She tried to apply for a job and couldn't produce a social security card or a birth certificate. When she pressed Gloria for answers, Gloria sat her down and told her the truth, or at least part of it. Alexis now knew she had been taken, but she stayed. She didn't go to the police. She didn't reach out to anyone. Whatever complicated bond had formed between them over 16 years was strong enough, at least for a while, to keep the secret buried. It didn't stay buried. In 2016, 2 separate anonymous tips were submitted to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Both named a young woman in South Carolina as Baby Kamya. Jacksonville detectives followed the leads to Walterboro. A DNA sample taken from Kamya at birth, stored for nearly 2 decades, was matched against a swab from the young woman. It was a perfect match. On January 13, 2017, police arrived in Walterboro. The reunion happened the following day at the Walterboro Police Department. Kamya and Shannara met face-to-face for the first time since those 8 hours in 1998. Shannara later posted publicly that she was hurting, like the 16-year-old girl she had been the day her daughter was taken. Gloria Williams was arrested, extradited to Florida, and charged with kidnapping and interference with custody. In February 2018, she pleaded guilty. On June 8, 2018, Judge Marianne Soto sentenced her to 18 years in prison, 1 year for every year Kamya had been gone, plus 5 years concurrent for custodial interference. The hospital settled a civil suit brought by Shannara for approximately $1.5 million. Kamya moved to Florida in 2019 to be closer to her biological family. Yeah, she built relationships with her half-sisters and attended one of their weddings. She calls Craig Aiken Daddy. Her relationship with Shannara, by her own description, is a roller coaster. And Gloria Williams, the woman who took her, raised her, and lied to her for 18 years. Kamya still calls her mother. Gloria Williams is currently housed at Lee Correctional Institution with a scheduled release date of July 23, 2032. In September 2025, she filed an amended motion to withdraw her guilty plea, citing ineffective counsel. She is reportedly pursuing an MBA while incarcerated. Before we move to the next case, if you're finding this story as gripping as we do, hit that subscribe button right now. Now, every week we bring you real stories like this one, cases that will make you question everything you think you know about the people closest to you. Subscribe and don't miss a single one. And while you're here, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from right now? Let us know. We read every single one. Case 2. Carlina White. Carlina White was 19 days old when she was taken. 19 days. She hadn't even had time to learn the sound of her mother's voice. July 15th, 1987. Harlem, New York. Joy White and Carl Tyson were both teenagers when their daughter was born. By August 4th, the baby had developed a high fever. Joy and Carl rushed her to Harlem Hospital Center, terrified and desperate for answers. The doctors admitted Carlina and began treatment. That night, a woman was there. She had been present at the hospital for 3 weeks, long enough that staff and families had grown used to seeing her face. She dressed like a nurse. She was warm, attentive, and calm. When Joy and Carl were at their most frightened, she sat with them through the night, offering comfort and reassurance. She told them everything would be fine. Between 2:30 and 3:55 in the morning, someone removed Carlina's IV line. The hospital's surveillance system wasn't working. Carlina was gone. The woman's name was Anugeta Pete. Born around 1962 in Connecticut, she had a history of larceny convictions and had suffered multiple miscarriages. She had spent 3 weeks at that hospital, watching, waiting, and building trust. And then she walked out with someone else's infant daughter. She took Carlina to Bridgeport, Connecticut. Nixon raised her as Nedra Nettie Nance. Joy and Carl were left behind in a hospital room with no answers, no surveillance footage, and no leads. The case drew attention. Harlem Hospital was sued, and Joy's family eventually received a $750,000 settlement in 1992, with half held in trust for Carlina if she was found before age 21. But Carlina wasn't found. The years passed. The trust expired. In Bridgeport, Nettie's childhood was not a happy one. She later described the household as unstable. The woman raising her, referred to in court records as Pue, hit her and threw shoes at her. At 16, Nettie told the Connecticut Department of Children and Families that she suspected Pue was not her biological mother. Nothing was done. The system failed her completely. In 2005, at 18, Nettie became pregnant with her daughter, Minsamani. When she asked Pue for a birth certificate to handle the paperwork around the pregnancy, Pue produced a document. Authorities who reviewed it recognized it immediately as a forgery. When confronted, Pue admitted she was not Nettie's biological mother, but lied again, claiming a drug-addicted woman had given the child to her. Nettie now knew she had been lied to her entire life. She just didn't know who she really was. 5 years later, she found out on her own. In December 2010, 23-year-old Nettie sat down at a computer and searched the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children website. She was looking for herself, some trace of a child who matched her story. She scrolled through the database of missing children and stopped cold. There was an infant photo, a baby girl missing from Harlem Hospital since 1987, and she recognized the face. A birthmark under her arm matched the description in the file. Pue's sister, Cassandra Johnson, helped her contact NCMEC directly. DNA testing confirmed what Nettie already knew in her gut. She was Carlina White. She had been missing for 23 years. She had been living less than 2 hours from the city where she was born. And the trust fund set aside for her, the money that had waited for her return, had expired 2 years earlier because she had been found 2 years too late. Joy White and Carlina met in New York on January 15, 2011. 23 years of absence compressed into a single room. Pue turned herself into the FBI in Bridgeport on January 23, 2011. She pleaded guilty to federal kidnapping in February 2012. On July 30, 2012, Judge P. Kevin Castell sentenced her to 12 years. And Carl Tyson told reporters the sentence should have been 23 years, one for every year his daughter was stolen. Pue was released on April 14, 2021, after serving approximately 9 years and 8 months at FCY Aliceville in Alabama. Carlina, who now goes by Nettie, a name she chose for herself, lives in Atlanta and is self-employed. Her daughter Samani, the child whose existence pushed Carlina to search for the truth, turned 18 in 2023 and reportedly enlisted in the Army. And in a detail that says everything about the kind of person Carlina became. She writes to Pue in prison, not out of forgiveness exactly, but out of a decision not to let anger consume the life she finally has. Joy White's family had waited 23 years for their daughter. The system had failed them at every turn. A broken surveillance camera, a forged document that went unchallenged, a teenager's cry for help that no one acted on. And yet, Carlina found her way home, not because of law enforcement, not because of a tip, but because she sat down one night and refused to stop looking. What time is it where you are right now? Drop it in the comments. We have viewers watching from all over the world, and we want to hear from you. Coming up next, a case from the other side of the world, where a young woman spent 18 years living just kilometers from her biological family, attending the same high school as her biological sister, and nobody knew. That story is next, and you will not want to look away. Case 3. Zephanie Nurse. Zephanie Nurse was 2 days old. Her mother, Celeste, was still recovering from emergency surgery, sedated on morphine, barely able to move, when a woman in a maroon nurse's uniform walked into the maternity ward at Groote Schuur Hospital in Cape Town, South Africa, lifted the baby from the cot beside Celeste's bed, and walked out. April 30th, 1997. Zephanie had been alive for 48 hours. The woman had been on that ward for 2 days before the abduction. She had introduced herself to other mothers, made small talk, built familiarity. Nobody questioned her. She wore the uniform. She belonged, or appeared to. When investigators later examined the hospital's layout, they found a tunnel connecting the ward to the street outside with no access restrictions. She had walked in, taken a newborn, and walked straight out. Her name was LaVonna Solomon. She was a seamstress from Lavender Hill, a neighborhood just outside Cape Town. And she had recently suffered a miscarriage. Court testimony later established that she had faked an entire pregnancy, wearing a pillow beneath her clothing to simulate a growing belly, because she believed having a child would convince her partner, Michael Solomon, to marry her. Michael, an electrician, later testified he had no idea the baby was not his. Investigators recovered that pillow from the hospital tunnel. LaVonna took the baby home to Lavender Hill, named her Mika, and enrolled her in school using fabricated birth documents. She raised Mika as her own daughter, was active in her church as a worship leader, and by most accounts provided a stable home. Mika grew up believing her birthday was April 30th, the day she was taken, not the day she was born. Back in Cape Town, Celeste and Moore Nurse were destroyed, and the strain of losing Zephanie dismantled their marriage. They separated. Celeste carried the weight of that loss for nearly 2 decades, and then, in 2015, she received a diagnosis of stage 3B cervical cancer. A woman already broken, now facing something worse. The discovery, when it came, was not the result of a DNA database or a federal investigation. It came from a high school hallway. In January 2015, Cassidy Nurse, Zephanie's biological sister, started at the same high school Mika attended. Classmates noticed immediately that the 2 girls looked alike. Someone showed Cassidy a selfie of Mika. Cassidy brought it home. Her parents looked at the photo, and felt something shift. On February 25, 2015, LaVonna Solomon was arrested. DNA testing confirmed what the photo had suggested. Mika was Zephanie. She had spent 18 years living kilometers from her biological family. She had walked the same streets, breathed the same air, and never known. Trial began in August 2015 at the Western Cape High Court. LaVonna's defense claimed she had purchased the baby from a woman named Sylvia for 3,000 rand at a railway station, a claim the court rejected entirely. No adoption had taken place. No transaction had occurred. She had taken a newborn from a hospital bed while the mother lay sedated. On March 10, 2016, LaVonna Solomon was convicted on all 3 counts. On August 15, 2016, she was sentenced to 14 years, with 4 suspended. She served her time at Worcester Female Prison and was released on August 18, 2023, having served 7 years. Michael Solomon filed for divorce while she was incarcerated. Zephanie, who now goes by Mika Zephanie Sheldon, works as a bookkeeper in Cape Town. She married Justin Sheldon on March 21, 2023. On the day of LaVonna's release from prison, Mika moved out of the Solomon home and posted a single line online. "The cord has now been cut." In 2024, she said she does not see the woman who raised her as criminal and evil. Celeste's cancer is in remission. She and Moore remarried in November 2020. 2 people who had lost a daughter lost each other and somehow found their way back. If this story stopped you in your tracks, share this video with someone who needs to see it. Every share puts these stories in front of more people, and for families still searching, visibility matters. Hit share right now. What's the weather like where you are today? Drop it in the comments. Sunshine, rain, and snow. We want to know. Case 4. Paul Fronzac. This case does not have 1 victim, it has 3. And for decades, none of them knew the others existed. April 26, 1964. Michael Reese Hospital, Chicago, Illinois. Chester and Dora Fronzac had just welcomed a son, Paul Joseph Fronzac. The next morning, a woman in a nurse's uniform told Dora the doctor needed to examine the baby. She took the infant, walked out of the hospital, and disappeared, apparently into a waiting taxi. Chicago police launched a massive manhunt. Thousands of babies across the city were checked. Nothing. Then, on July 2, 1965, a toddler was found abandoned in a stroller on a sidewalk in Newark, New Jersey. The FBI contacted the Fronzacs and told them this child might be their son. The family traveled to Newark. They studied the boy's features, specifically his ears, which investigators believed could be matched to infant photos. Without genetic testing, without any scientific confirmation, the Fronzacs took the boy home. They raised him as Paul. He grew up in Oak Lawn, Illinois, served in the military, took on minor acting roles, and had a daughter named Emma. He lived his entire adult life as Paul Fronzac. He was not Paul Fronzac. In 2012, the man raised as Paul took a consumer DNA test. The results came back and confirmed what no one in the family had ever wanted to consider. He was not biologically related to Chester and Dora. The family he had known his entire life was not his family by blood. Volunteer DNA investigators took the case. On June 3, 2015, they identified him as Jack Thomas Rosenthal of Atlantic City, New Jersey, born October 27, 1963, Nick's the son of parents who had both died in the 1990s. He had a twin sister, Jill Lynn Rosenthal, who had been reported missing as a child. Witnesses described the Rosenthal twins' childhood as severely neglected. Jack had been abandoned in that stroller in Newark as a toddler, and the FBI had handed him to the wrong family. That left the original question unanswered. Where was the real Paul Fronzac? Investigators turned their attention to a woman named Lorraine Fountain. She had been in Chicago around the time of the abduction, was involved with a local doctor, and had later moved to Arkansas. returning with a child she raised as Kevin Ray Batty. Kevin grew up in Manton, Michigan, with a fabricated birthday of March 14, 1964. He played basketball, worked as a machinist, and fathered 3 daughters. He had no reason to question any of it. When one of Kevin's daughters submitted a DNA sample, the results linked her directly to Chester and Dora Fronzac. Kevin Ray Batty was Paul Fronzac. The FBI confirmed the identification. The news broke publicly in December 2019, 55 years after the abduction. Dora Fronzac, by then widowed, spoke with Kevin by phone for the first time. They talked. They made plans to meet in person. Kevin Ray Batty died of cancer on April 25, 2020, one day before what would have been his 56th birthday. The in-person meeting never happened. The man raised as Paul now goes by Paul Jack Fronzac and lives in Henderson, Nevada. Jill Lynn Rosenthal, Jack's twin sister missing since childhood, has never been found. In September 2022, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released an age-progressed image of what she might look like today. 3 men, 3 stolen identities, 1 woman who walked out of a Chicago hospital in 1964 and set off a chain of consequences that took more than half a century to untangle and still isn't fully resolved. Lorraine Fountain is deceased. No charges were ever filed. Up next, we move to a case that sat frozen for 73 years. A 6-year-old boy lured away from a park in Oakland, California in 1951, and the niece who refused to let his story end there. What she uncovered using a DNA test and a roll of microfilm is one of the most remarkable cold case resolutions in American history. That story is next. Case 5, Luis Armando Albino, February 21, 1951, Jefferson Square Park, West Oakland, California. The 6-year-old Luis Armando Albino was playing near the park's edge with his 10-year-old brother Roger. Their family had recently moved from Puerto Rico. Their mother, Antonia, was a single woman who did not speak English, navigating a new city and a new country with her children. A woman approached Luis. She spoke Spanish. She offered him candy. By the time Roger turned around, his brother was gone. What followed was one of the largest searches in Oakland's history. Police, soldiers, Coast Guard personnel, and city employees combed San Francisco Bay and the surrounding areas. Antonia searched on her own, through neighborhoods, through leads, through years of silence. She filed reports. She made calls. She never stopped. She died in 2005 at age 92, still believing her son was alive somewhere. She was right. For 73 years, the case sat frozen. No confirmed sightings. No credible leads. Luis Armando Albino remained one of the oldest unresolved child abduction cases in American history. A name on a file, a face on a flyer that had long since faded. Then, a DNA test changed everything. In 2020, Alida Alkin, Luis's niece, then 63 years old and living in Oakland, submitted a sample to an online DNA testing service. The results came back with a 22% match to a man living on the East Coast. It wasn't enough to act on immediately. Alida held on to it. 4 years later, in 2024, she went to the Oakland Public Library and requested microfilm archives, old newspaper photographs from the 1950s. She compared those images to the East Coast man's profile photo. The facial structure matched. She contacted Oakland police. Now, investigators reopened the case. DNA samples were collected from Luis's surviving siblings with assistance from the California Department of Justice and the FBI. On June 20th, 2024, the match was confirmed. The man on the East Coast was Luis Armando Albino. He had been living under a different name, in a different state, for 73 years, raised by the woman who had taken him from that park, never knowing his real identity, never knowing that a brother named Roger had spent his entire life waiting. On June 24, 2024, Luis flew to Oakland. He walked off the plane and hugged his niece Alida. He said 4 words, Thank you for finding me." The next day, they drove to Stanislaus County to see Roger. The two brothers, separated since 1951, reunited in 2024, had one summer together. Roger died of cancer in August 2024, not approximately 2 months after they met. The woman who abducted Luis is deceased. The woman who raised him has also died. Oakland police closed the missing persons case. The FBI's kidnapping investigation remains open, though no charges have been filed. The family and Luis have chosen privacy. He has not given televised interviews, and his East Coast hometown has not been disclosed publicly. The story broke nationally on September 20th, 2024, carried by the Associated Press, NPR, NBC News, CNN, and CBS News. It is documented as the longest successfully resolved child abduction case in American history. 73 years, one niece, a DNA kit, and a roll of microfilm. Antonia Albino spent her entire life searching for a son she never stopped believing in. She didn't live to see the answer. But the answer came. If you've made it this far, you already know this channel is different. We don't do fluff. We do facts, real cases, real people. If that's what you're here for, smash that like button right now. It costs you nothing, and it tells YouTube to put this video in front of more people who need to see these stories. Do it now. Don't scroll past it. Case 6. Melissa Highsmith. Melissa was 22 months old when she was taken, not from a hospital, not from a park, but from her own front door. August 1971. Fort Worth, Texas. Her mother, Alla Apentenko, was a 22-year-old waitress raising a toddler on her own. Money was tight. She needed help. She placed an ad in the Fort Worth Star-Telegram looking for a babysitter. A woman called herself Ruth Johnson. She never met Alla in person before being hired. She convinced her entirely over the phone. When she finally showed up, she was wearing long white gloves and white clothing, dressed like a nurse. On August 23, 1971, Alla's roommate handed Melissa to the woman, along with diapers and a change of clothes. Ruth Johnson never came back. For the next 51 years, Alla Apentenko lived under a cloud of suspicion. Neighbors accused her of killing her own daughter. The community whispered. Investigators found no evidence against her, but the accusations never fully stopped. She carried that weight for 5 decades. Melissa, meanwhile, was raised roughly 20 minutes from her biological mother, close enough that their paths could have crossed at a grocery store, a gas station, a red light. She was given different names over the years: Melanie Moko, then Melanie Walden, then Melanie Brown after she married. She was told a fabricated story about her origins. Born at home, suffered brain damage at birth, her father was in Japan. Explanations designed to account for the absence of baby photos and the gaps in her paperwork. She ran away at 15. The household had been harsh, and she left. She built a life. She had 3 children. She reached her 50s without ever knowing that 2 people in Fort Worth had been searching for her since 1971. The break came not from law enforcement, but from a consumer DNA database. Both of Melissa's biological parents, Ayla and Jeffrey Highsmith, had submitted DNA samples to 23andMe years earlier independently, without coordinating. When Melissa's 3 children uploaded their own DNA profiles, the platform flagged a significant match to Jeffrey Highsmith. And the family cross-referenced the data and located Melissa within 3 weeks. Melissa, then 53 years old, received the first contact and assumed it was a scam. She ignored it. The messages kept coming. Eventually, a long phone call with her biological brother convinced her to take a confirmatory DNA test. It confirmed everything. On November 26, 2022, the day after Thanksgiving, Melissa met her biological parents for the first time. Jeffrey Highsmith, the father who had spent 51 years without his daughter, said the kidnapper had stolen 51 years of his joy. Fort Worth police confirmed the DNA match in May 2023. The investigation, however, hit an immediate wall. The statute of limitations for criminal prosecution had expired in 2007. No charges could be filed. The woman who took Melissa from that doorstep in 1971 would face no legal consequences. Melissa said she did not want charges. She wanted answers. In May 2023, she walked into a Texas courtroom and legally changed her name back to Melissa Highsmith. The courtroom gave her a standing ovation. She has since cut off all contact with the woman who raised her. She runs a Facebook page dedicated to advocating for missing persons cases, using her own story to keep other cases visible. The case has been featured on Investigation Discovery and in People magazine, and Fort Worth investigators say it has renewed momentum in other cold cases that had gone quiet for decades. 51 years, a babysitter ad in a local newspaper, 2 DNA profiles sitting in a database, waiting for the right moment to connect. Think about this, somewhere out there. Right now, there are people living under names that aren't theirs, with histories that were invented for them, and the only thing standing between them and the truth might be a DNA test. If these stories matter to you, subscribe to this channel. We cover the cases that don't get enough attention, and we're not stopping. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Coming up, a father who drove 10 hours with his 5-year-old son and built an entirely new life under a fake name. In a case so complicated, so morally tangled, that the children who were taken refused to go back, even as adults. Both of those stories are next, and they will leave you thinking long after this video ends. Case 7. Julian Hernandez. Julian Hernandez didn't know he was missing. He was a straight-A student at Lakewood High School in Cleveland, Ohio. He practiced martial arts. He had friends, a home, a father who showed up to his games. From the outside, his life looked completely normal. It wasn't. Julian was born in 1997 in Vestavia Hills, Alabama. His parents, Bobby Hernandez and his mother, were in a relationship that was falling apart by 2002. There was no formal custody order in place. What there was, according to court records, was a threat. Bobby had told people directly, if the relationship ended, he would take Julian. On August 28, 2002, Bobby agreed to drop 5-year-old Julian off at preschool. Instead, he drained the bank accounts, packed Julian's baby blanket and a stuffed orca whale, and drove 10 hours north to Cleveland, Ohio. Julian's mother filed a missing persons report. She kept the case open. For 13 years, she waited. In Cleveland, Bobby built a new life from scratch. He created aliases, Jonathan Menina for himself, JJ Mangina for his son. He kept Julian out of public school for years to avoid registration systems and social services scrutiny. In 2012, he obtained Ohio identification documents under the alias. When he eventually enrolled Julian in school, he used a falsified birth certificate. Julian thrived anyway. He had no reason to question his identity. He was told only that his parents had broken up and that his mother lived elsewhere. He accepted it. He focused on school, on athletics, on building a future. That future is what exposed everything. In the fall of 2015, Julian was 18 and applying to colleges. During the application process, his Social Security number repeatedly failed verification checks. He couldn't understand why. He brought the issue to a guidance counselor who began investigating the discrepancy. What the counselor found didn't add up. The identity attached to Julian's records had inconsistencies that pointed to fabrication. A deeper search located a missing child file that had been opened since 2002. The file had Julian's name on it. On October 30, 2015, the FBI's Cleveland office received a tip. Within 3 days, Julian was identified. On November 2, 2015, Bobby Hernandez was arrested. The charges were extensive. Bobby was indicted on multiple counts including kidnapping, tampering with records, interference with custody, and forgery. On March 14, 2016, he pleaded guilty to 2 counts of kidnapping, 10 counts of tampering with records, 2 counts of interference with custody, and 1 count of forgery. At sentencing on April 13, 2016, Julian stood before the court and asked the judge to spare his father. The court sentenced Bobby to 4 years in prison plus 5 years of supervised release. Bobby was admitted to Marion Correctional Institution on April 19, 2016, and was released through judicial release in 2019. Julian maintained contact with both parents following Bobby's release. He asked for privacy, and that request has been respected. 13 years, a fake name, a stuffed orca whale packed into a bag on the morning a father decided his son belonged to him alone. Julian found out who he really was, not because of a DNA test or an anonymous tip, but because he was trying to go to college. He was building a future, and the lie his father built couldn't survive it. Case 8. Bobby and Christy Baskin. This is the case with no clean ending. March 1st, 1989. Murfreesboro to Tennessee. Catherine Christine Baskin, called Christy, was 6 years old. Her brother Robert, called Bobby, was slightly older. Their parents, Mark and Debbie Baskin, had temporarily left the children with Debbie's parents, Marvin and Sandra Maple, while the family handled a relocation. What followed was not a stranger abduction. It was not a woman in a nurse's uniform. It was a custody dispute that turned into a disappearance, and a legal battle that dragged on for 2 decades without resolution. The Maples had petitioned for custody of the children in May 1988, alleging that Mark and Debbie were members of a satanic cult and had abused the children. Investigators examined the claims and found no supporting evidence. A final hearing was scheduled, one that, by all indications, would have cleared the Baskins entirely. Then 8 days before that hearing, Marvin and Sandra Maple sold their cars, emptied their bank accounts, and vanished with both children. They surfaced briefly in Santa Clara, California in 1990 after an Unsolved Mysteries segment generated tips. Then they disappeared again. They eventually settled in San Jose under the aliases John and Francis Bunting. The children were renamed Jennifer and Jonathan Bunting. The Maples homeschooled them, keeping them away from registration systems, social services, and any institution that might ask questions. The children grew up. Christy, as Jenny, became a nurse and eventually moved into nursing administration. Bobby, as John, married and had children of his own. They built adult lives in California under names that were not theirs, and is shaped by a version of their past that had been constructed entirely by the people who took them. The Maples told the children that the Baskins had abused them, that their biological parents were dangerous, that leaving had been the only option. On February 2, 2009, Marvin Maple was arrested. The case moved through the Tennessee court system, but the kidnapping warrant was later dismissed as legally flawed. On May 22, 2009, Marvin entered a plea to custodial interference and was sentenced to 4 years of supervised probation. No prison time. Sandra Maple had died in March 2006. Marvin Maple died on May 26, 2016, at age 80. When Marvin was arrested, investigators made contact with Christy and Bobby, now adults living in California. Both refused to meet their biological parents. Both referred to the Maples as their parents. The Baskins and official investigators maintain the children were abducted. Christy has never spoken publicly about the matter. Bobby gave one public interview in May 2017. He said the abuse he remembered was real. He said he would not return to his birth family. He said the life he had built was his own. Mark and Debbie Baskin remain in Southeast Georgia. They have never stopped believing their children were taken from them. They have never had a reunion. There is no DNA match at the end of this story. No courtroom standing ovation, no phone call after 55 years. Just 2 adults who grew up with a version of the truth and chose to keep living inside it. And 2 parents in Georgia who will likely never know their children as adults. Of all the cases in this video, this one asks the hardest question. When a child is raised inside a lie long enough, and that lie becomes their entire life, Who gets to decide what the truth means to them? These 8 cases span 7 decades, multiple countries, and every kind of betrayal imaginable. Strangers in hospital corridors, fathers with packed bags, grandparents who ran. What connects all of them is this: someone decided a child belonged to them. And in every single case, the truth found a way through DNA, through a school computer, through a high school hallway, through a college application. If these stories moved you, leave a comment below and tell us which case hit you hardest. Share this video, because somewhere out there, a family is still searching. And subscribe to Inside Crime Minds, because next week, we go deeper. These stories don't stop here.